Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of the Changing Minds podcast season 2. This particular episode is all about what I like to call the persuasiveness of consultative communication, really influenced by asking. So before I get into that, I have a very special announcement, and that is Influence School is finally opening its doors for the first time this very week. And I'm very, very excited to announce it. Influence School is an online training which incorporates some live sessions via Facebook Live or whatnot, with an extensive curriculum of everything you need to know pretty much about influence and persuasion. It's something I've been putting together for the last 3 or 4 years, to be quite honest. It incorporates some of my live stuff along with some in-studio videos. But I cover everything from positioning yourself in the most persuasive way to be able to read your audience better and really deep dive into exactly what they're thinking, regardless of what context, whether you're a public speaker, an entrepreneur, a salesperson, you're in marketing, or whether you just want to improve the way in which you impact other people with your communication. So I talk about the message, delivering a powerful and compelling and convincing message through using logic, but also using emotion. And I'll be adding little bits and pieces to it over time. So please check it out, changingmindsacademy.com, for more information on Influence School. But today I want to talk about a particular form of influence called influence by asking. So why am I talking about that, and why today? Well, the reality is that we live in a world now where if we try to influence other people as effectively as we want, we miss a trick if we don't take into consideration their perspective, where they're coming from, what they want, what they're struggling with. Now that might seem obvious, but so often we construct offers or opportunities to our clients, or we try to present what we think the other person will like, instead of really being able to help them to solve the problems that they have. So over the last few years, obviously, we know there's lots of agencies out there, agencies that will do your website for you, that will create a brand for you, agencies that will be able to help you get PR, public relations. There's lots of different types of agencies that make promises to you. But the reality is that in many cases, the model that I see as changing quite a lot in the corporate sphere is that people are requiring more and more interaction with these agencies. In other words, it's not good enough for someone to do it for you. And maybe you don't want to do it yourself either, but maybe you want to collaborate with them. And so the importance of collaboration, I think, is becoming so much more important now. We are really living in a world where almost anything is customizable. You can do pretty much anything you like, and you can have things exactly as you want them. So in order for us to be able to be as successful as possible in that world, then we need to start to consider the switch or the move from something which is more agency-based to more consultative-based. So when we talk about consultants, oftentimes, you know, the understanding that a lot of people have of consultancies is that they go in and tell you the problem that you already know that you have, and they prove that you have it. And then sometimes they'll give you some prescriptions for what you should do, but a lot of times it's high-level stuff. And there's lots of stories of consultants going in and getting paid an astronomical amount of money and just helping you to realize that you've got a problem. In a lot of ways, there's politics involved. There's different challenges or different reasons why they say what they say, or big reports that they might give you just to prove that they've done the work. And I'm not saying that's true for all consultants, but I'm certainly saying that it's one of the challenges that the industry has today. But at a very base level, one of the things that makes consultancies work so well is they have a phenomenal ability to be able to really ask questions that people in the jobs themselves, in the careers, in the companies themselves don't always ask. So, for example, if you're in an organization, you're so inside of that organization, inside the politics, inside the culture, inside everything that's going on, that it's hard for you to step back. It's hard for you to take a step out. It's hard for you to look at it from a different perspective, from a different point of view. Instead, it's very easy to get sucked in and find yourself enveloped inside of that organization. And so the reason I'm saying that is because I think what's really useful about the consultative approach is this whole asking questions malarkey. So when we say asking questions, what are we really talking about? Well, to me, I sort of like to look at it as in 4 different things that you do with an organization when you turn into more of a consultative organization as opposed to more agency based. The first is establishing yourself. So in order for people to listen to you, in order for you to go into an organization and to help them, in order for you to sell to a client and for them to be, I suppose, not just to buy into the product or buy into that particular transaction, but buy into a long-term viable business relationship with you, then one of the things that needs to happen is you need to establish that you have their best interests in mind. You need to establish that you know what you're talking about. You have to establish some form of trust, some form of relatability or likability. You have to establish in their mind that you're the person that they would like to work with or collaborate with. And that means not just being yourself, that not just being authentic, which is critical, but also letting them see you in the process of doing whatever it is that you do. So as opposed to you giving them a finished product and always feeling the need to showcase this perfect you to the client, instead, you bring them into your world. You show them the process. Now, why does this work? Well, first and foremost, we could talk about being authentic. I can say to you, I'm super authentic. And maybe you might even describe me as authentic. But what is the label or the description of the word authentic? Like, how do you know when someone is authentic? Because you can't try to be authentic on purpose. That defeats the whole purpose of authenticity. Instead, authenticity, one of the many things that displays authenticity, I believe, is letting people see you doing whatever it is that you do without necessarily trying to manage or cultivate or curate that particular reputation in their mind. In other words, letting them see you do what you do. No, you trying to be your best. No, you trying to put on the best impression, which is natural for most of us, but you're doing what it is that you're doing. Think about it like dating, right? You go on a date with somebody. How do you know who the real them is? And it's quite hard to tell sometimes. But the truth of the matter is it's when they're doing what they're doing and they're making some mistakes and they're not aware that they're making mistakes, but they're trying their best. And that doesn't mean that you're looking at them and they're losing credibility in your eyes necessarily, because maybe they're still incredible people. But the fact that they're not perfect makes them even more incredible. And the same is true in terms of work. So what's really important is for you to start to think through, right, well, how can I make it so that I'm showcasing the way in which I do things? And the reality is not everyone will like that. I mean, not everyone, and this is going to come as a shock to you, like a big shock, but not everyone likes me. I know what you're saying. But if you go online, you'll see even with the TEDx talk, some people hate it, and some people love it, and some people don't give a shit about it, and that's just the way. In the world, you have all different types of people that react in all different types of ways. It's the same in person. I know certain people that I meet probably can't stand me, and other people do like me, and some people like me and then don't. Some people don't like me and then do. I mean, it's true for all of us. And the reality is what we need to do is we need to start to think through how can we effectively and dynamically be able to shift and improve the relationships we have with the clients that we work with. And in order to do that, to me, I believe it's about establishing the qualities of trust, establishing the qualities of relating to them, establishing the qualities of know what you're doing and showing that you do, but at the same time showing that you're not perfect either. And really the way to do that isn't by trying to do it on purpose, but it is to perform to the very best of your ability and invite them into your space. Allow them to see you as more transparent, allow them to see you as the real you as best you can. The second part after establishing is eliciting. And this is really where the questioning comes in. And this is about the research you do before, during, and after the work that you do with any client. So before is the work, the questions that you have possibly about like, what, let's say you're a freelancer, right? And you're going into work with an organization. And this, by the way, this could be useful for everything. It's useful, it's not just for agencies, it's for like salespeople, it's for any entrepreneurs that are looking to get either B2B clients, and even to be honest, a lot of this will be relevant for B2C as well, business to consumer. But the questions you might ask beforehand is you want to know about the other person. So you want to understand the company, for example. You might want to understand the roles in the company. If the person you're talking to a particular person in that company, you want to understand what's that person's role in that company. You want to understand the culture of the organization that you're going into to work, or the culture that person is coming from. You want to understand the values of the organization or the values of that person. You want to be doing your research as best you can. You know, if you're looking someone up on LinkedIn, you want to know their background, where they go to school, where do they study. You want to try to understand everything you can about the other person. And then once you understand about the politics of the organization or the personality of the other person, and you get all the information that you can get before and during the interaction, that gives you a much better opportunity to be able to help them solve the problems that they want. But then you also have to elicit the situation itself. And that means being able to ask questions like, well, what is the problem that they have? What other problems do they have? What's the real problem that they have? And digging deeper. So it's not just what's the problem they think they have. Because a lot of times, as a therapist, as a coach, something that I've experienced, is even as a consultant, is I go into an organization and they tell me what the problem is. But that's not the problem. Sometimes the problem that you have is not the problem. It's the problem you have with the problem that's the actual problem. That makes sense. But anyway, my point is that oftentimes we think this is the problem, but actually it's something else. The only way to understand that is to ask certain questions, to be able to go, how do you know that's an issue? What specifically about that is an issue? When does this issue come about? What happens in order to make this issue occur? And so what you're doing is you're using these questions to be able to really get a firm, clear insight in terms of what is actually going on. And once you do that, maybe you'll find that the problem that they're having is actually not what they think it is, it's something else. And that something else is something you can help them with as well. So the truth of the matter is that the more that you start to ask, well, what is the problem? Well, what else is a problem? Well, what is really going on here? Well, what is it that they want and what's stopping them from getting what they want? And you play around with those kind of questions, invariably you find that you're able to help them a lot more, because now you're trying to actively start to look at it from their perspective. So there's a set of great questions you can use. The meta model in NLP is obviously full of wonderful questions that you can ask in that particular situation to be able to help you. The next part is engagement, and that means when you're communicating with them, you need to make sure that you keep their attention. So there's a few things, a few ways to be able to do that. One is storytelling. Now, obviously, storytelling is a big piece on my influence school. I actually have an entire section all about storytelling. Plug. But engagement itself means your ability to be able to keep their attention and make it so that they want to keep paying attention to you all the way through and they're interested in what it is that you have to say. And so when we talk about telling stories, for example, the reason stories tend to work is because it's generally speaking, stories grab our attention because our brains work with stories in mind. In other words, we tend to construct stories to put all information in. We construct stories in our mind to understand the world, in other words. And so when we explain a story, there's ups in that story, there's downs in that story, there's positive feelings, there's negative feelings. Therefore, it keeps people paying attention as a result of that. And you can use case studies of ways that you've solved problems before, case studies of clients you've worked with and how you've helped them not just solve the problem they think they had, but a different problem altogether. So stories are a really powerful way of getting the message across. Then you also have the language of influence, which is being able to make it so that you connect with what they already believe. So you figure out what it is true for them and you make sure that you're able to communicate by saying what you know is on their mind. The more you do that, the more you build trust, the more you build a relationship, the more you build rapport. And then you can lead them and you can give them suggestions of what you think. And because you've paced them, because you've said what it is that you know that is true for them, they're more likely to come with you in terms of what you then suggest or then say. So you're not starting off the conversation by disagreeing with them, you're starting off the conversation by agreeing with them, and therefore they feel that they can listen to you as a result. And then there's also the structure, and the structure of any great conversation that makes people interested is you outline and identify the problems and the consequences of those problems first and foremost, and then you propose the solutions. You propose the way forward, the ideas, the things that they need to do. And based upon the fact that they now realize that the problem needs to be solved, and because you've talked to them about that problem, now you can offer that solution more effectively. And by the way, this is really useful in coaching as well, obviously, as I'm sure you're aware. And then, last but not least, is the embedding. And the embedding piece is your ability to be able to embed yourself inside of the client's organization or embed yourself inside the client's mind in such a way that you understand from their point of view. You're starting to see things from their perspective. Your goals are fully aligned with theirs. You're actively using your expertise to help them to achieve their goal. You're actively using your expertise to help them to get what it is that they want. And when you're at that stage, you're using your elicitation questions, you've already established yourself effectively, you're fully engaging them, and you're really going after exactly what is it that they need so that they can get the kind of results that they want. You're invested fully and completely in them. To me, if you are trying to help any client in any context, especially in terms of the professional services industry, and you start to think and consider how you can start to make it so that they feel that you're part of their team, that they're partnering with you as opposed to, that you're just doing stuff for them, I can guarantee you it's going to help you improve the relationship you build with them. It'll improve the long-term viability of the relationship that you build with them, and it will allow you to be able to get much better results for them because you're working with them for them, not just doing something for them, which is a completely different way of working. But I believe it is something that has become even more important in the modern world. Anyway, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. Once again, please check out the Influence School at changingmindsacademy.com. For now, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. Have a wonderful week. Thanks very much for listening.